My ex demanded child support for a child that wasn't mine, and when I asked for a paternity test, she and my sister tried to ruin my life. Some years ago I dated a girl. The relationship was bad, she was very controlling and abusive. It ended up really bad and we broke up. I kept going on with my life, and after some years I got a decent job, enough to solve all my needs, have a comfortable life and make some savings. The thing is, a couple of months after getting my job, my ex contacted me. She first asked me to talk. I believed that she may want to reconnect or something, but she showed up with a 5-year-old child claiming he was my son and demanding child support. I didn't believe her, but the child's age matched the time since we cut contact. I got advice from a lawyer, a friend of mine, to try to solve this out of court. I offered to take responsibility, pay all the costs, and be an active part of the kid's life, only after making a DNA test. Everyone was okay with this, except for my ex. She acted offended and demanded I just give her the money she deserved. She used all the excuses she could, even contacted my family to tell them I was trying to avoid taking responsibility for her child. When she ran out of excuses, the DNA test was finally made, and surprise, I'm not the father. She was so mad at the result and cried about the money, saying it was unfair and she deserved it. But she didn't accomplish anything. Moving on to last week, there was a little party at my parents' house. My brother, a friend, and I were talking, and my brother started to joke about the situation with my ex. My friend and I started to joke about it too. Some of our comments were a little dark and bad, but we were far away from the rest of the people. Literally, we were on the opposite side of the house, and nobody else could hear us. At least that was what we thought. We were laughing like crazies when my sister appeared, very angry, and pushed me against the wall. She had spied on us and heard our conversation, and she was really mad. She started to yell at us about how horrible people we were for making fun of a poor woman. A few hours later, when the party ended, she asked me to go to the kitchen with our parents, and she started to say how awful I was for the previous situation. Apparently my ex had been in contact with her, and she believed her version, and that was her way to have an intervention. My brother and I were like, "Are you serious?" when she started to say how I forced my ex to be a single mother, and that I have a moral obligation to help her. My dad only said that we maybe were being too cruel making jokes about her, but that I wasn't responsible for that kid. My mom then surprised all of us when she said, "Even if the kid is not yours, you are making more than enough money to support that child. You should have helped her." Since then I have been receiving texts. My dad and my brother are on my side, saying I'm not responsible for her, but my sister is telling me how horrible I am for ruining their lives. My mom only said, "It's your decision, and I respect it, just very disappointed that you ended up being so selfish." I'm aware that she doesn't deserve my money, and I'm not planning to give her any, but the constant harassment from my sister trying to guilt me is just exhausting. Update 1. It's been a while since my last post. I read all the comments and decided to show them to my mother. We had to talk about the situation again. She started on my ex's side, but after reading the post and all the comments and opinions, she realized she was wrong. I think the thing that hurt her the most was all the doubts about whether she had cheated on my dad and whether I wasn't his son, and if that was the reason she was on her side. We had a very long conversation. She told me that she believed my ex because she was always so nice and kind to her. That she decided not to believe me when I told her all the things she did to me during the relationship because a good girl like her could never do something like that, so I must be lying. After that she apologized to me, and we are good now. On the other side, my sister, at first she decided that she wouldn't talk to me until I took responsibility, but after some days I talked with her. She is totally on her side, even after showing her everything. She said that none of that mattered because a woman's word goes first, and that's all the proof anyone could need. Also, she said that even if you are not the biological father, you have an effective responsibility with her, so you must be man enough to take charge of them and start acting like a real man. She was a lost cause. About my ex, I did some research and found out that shortly after we broke up, she started dating another guy, or maybe she was cheating on me with him before, I'm not sure. They broke up some weeks later, and she had multiple dates until she found out she was pregnant. I also found that she had been trying to find a father for her kid for the last 2 years, and I was the next on the list. But it looks like she is desperate now because she was never that aggressive with any other one before. Now the reason for this post, some days ago, my ex and my sister came to my workplace. They made a big sign with my face that said he abandoned his child and is an irresponsible father and started a drama, saying all their lies. Their intention was to shame me and use social pressure to force me to take charge of them. They literally said it. To not make the story too long, they were taken out of the place. I got problems for that since even after showing all the proofs and legal documents that showed they were lying, I was warned that this better never happen again, or I'll be fired. After that I contacted my friend, the lawyer, and we are now drafting a very long and detailed paper against them, my ex and my sister too. They went too far. Now I'm going against them with everything. Maybe that will scare them enough to leave me alone. Update 2. Hi everyone, and sorry for the lack of news. The last few weeks have been crazy with a lot of stuff, but I think now is a good moment to update you all. First of all, I'm not allowed to talk a lot about the lawsuit. The most I can share with you is that my ex was extremely freaked out when she knew about it. She is now begging to drop it. She offered to take back everything she said, to never bother or even contact me again. She even tried to guilt me, saying that I would be ruining her and her son's life, but honestly, I don't care. I got tired of being the good guy a long time ago. She messed with me, now I'm fighting back, and for my sister the lawsuit at first only made her worse. As her attempt to shame me and my job didn't work as well as she wanted, she moved it to social media, spreading her BS about me abandoning my child and not taking responsibility, and exposing my legal actions as acts of censorship and misogyny. But in the end, that will be worse for her, not only because I can dismiss her defamation easily, but also because it is more evidence in our favor. Anyway, this is going to be a long road, and we are just beginning. Recently we had a posada at my parents' home. Every year we use this excuse to make a big family party before Christmas. I had my doubts because I didn't want to be near my sister, but after some relatives assured me that she wouldn't be there, I decided to go. Big mistake. She was there. Mom decided that despite everything that happened, I was taking all this too far, so she wanted all of us to meet to solve this problem as a family. I tried to get out of there the moment I realized what she intended, but some relatives tried to stop me while my mom cried that I needed to stop. That I was tearing apart the family and needed to learn to forgive and let go. I realized that despite everything, even knowing I was telling the truth, she was still on my sister's side. I got out of there telling her that I'm not attending any family event again if she is there, and to never think of trying this BS again. At this point, almost all my family knows what she did. Some of them think my sister is crazy, some others think she is crazy but that I'm taking it too far. A couple of days ago Mom invited me to spend Christmas with them. I didn't want to go after what she did, but I decided to give her a chance after she swore it wouldn't happen again. But not only had she planned to do it again, my brother warned me that this time she intended to lock me in until I forgave my sister and stopped the nonsense. I called my mom and told her I knew, and that I was done with her and my sister. So don't talk to me until she realized she supported the wrong person and apologized. I don't need to say how many times she tried to call me in the following hours and all the drama she made when I didn't show up for Christmas. But again, I'm too tired of being the good guy. So that's it for the moment. Hope you all had a nice Christmas, and I wish you a happy and drama-free New Year. New update. Hi to all that's still here. It's been a while, more than a year, and I think now is a good time to give an update about everything that happened with my life during the last year. Lots of things happened. Lots of things have changed. The lawsuit, to be short, we didn't get into trial. All got solved in conciliation meetings. My lawyer's strategy was to add all the things we could think of, from the harassment, the defamation, to the attempts to put my job at risk, parental fraud, everything. The idea was to scare the hell out of them, and if that didn't work, there would be lots of charges against my ex and my sister. My sister kept calling it a bluff and kept posting all her BS on social media, things she regrets now, as every single word she posted against me came back to bite her when it was used as proof. My ex took back everything she said, asked for my forgiveness after seeing that she would lose a lot, so she ended up accepting to compensate the damages out of court, and left my sister alone in a battle she started. When my sister realized how big things really were, that she was alone now and would lose, she freaked out, deleted every single post she made, and tried to pretend she never did what she did. But at that point, we had all the backups, screenshots, and recordings we needed. On the last conciliation meeting, she broke down crying, begging me to forgive her and to not make her go through this. But she did this to herself. She had multiple chances to stop, but she kept pushing and ended up facing the consequences of her own stupidity. She had to pay me a good amount plus all the legal costs. My mother helped her to pay, but now she has a considerable debt as my dad demanded her to pay them back over time. For a few months, she resented me for what I did, but we ended up talking and getting back on good terms. Our relationship is damaged but healing. She confessed to me that at the beginning, she felt she was fighting for a good reason, for a cause she believed in, defending a poor woman in need. She believed she was doing the right thing, so she was sure she had to win at the end. Those ideas were supported by her friends, as she said those girls were encouraging her to fight, to face me, and make me fulfill my obligations, that she was fighting in the name of other women. And those ideas stayed in her mind until things got too real. When she saw there was no way she would win, then all those girls disappeared. My ex left her alone. All the ones who gave her support wished her luck and went away, so she had no other choice but to surrender. So that's how things ended with them. And for the ones who suspected, no, my sister and my ex weren't in a relationship. I don't know where my ex is, and I don't care. She paid and disappeared, and I hope to never see her again. Some people have told me I went too far with her. Some even called me a monster for ruining a single mother who was already in trouble, and some have said I'm not loyal to my family for taking this issue so far instead of solving it within the family. At this point, I don't care anymore either. My mother, for the months the conciliation lasted, my mom was on my sister's side. Multiple times she tried to convince me to stop, from asking me to just let it go, to trying to guilt me for everything she could think of. She even threatened to disown me, to say she would not see me as a son anymore, to separate me from the family, but at the end, she couldn't and was and still is resentful for all those months. And after all was over, I kept asking myself why she does this, why she just kept treating me like this, putting everyone's side before mine. So after reading multiple people saying to do this, I finally got to do the DNA test. After talking about it with my brother and dad, all agreed it was too strange my mom acted like this. And because of everything my mom said and implied, my dad had more and more doubts to the point he was sure she did something. After some beers, a very hard talk, some tears, and the promise that no matter what the result says to me and my bro, he will always be our dad, we made the DNA test. Both of us are his sons. My dad was so relieved but then very embarrassed for having doubts about his wife's loyalty. He felt very ashamed, so we ended up apologizing to her for what we did. As I started the talk about the DNA test, I asked to be the first to talk and apologize to her. That night, all of us gathered at my dad's house. We sat around the table, and I started by recognizing all the fights and tension we had over the months and apologizing for it because after all, she is my mother. But her behavior made us all wonder and have lots of doubts about why she was being like this, so I suggested I'll go make a DNA test. Right after saying that, my mom went livid, and half a second later her face went red, got up from the chair and threw herself at me, pulling my hair, scratching and hitting me, screaming, "Why you did this? I hate you. You had no right." My father and my brother separated her from me. She immediately started to ask for forgiveness from my dad. My dad was surprised and furious when he told her that I was about to apologize to her because the results said we were his sons. Her face was a mix of fear and desperation. Her reaction told us everything. I never saw my dad so angry. She confessed that long ago, she had an affair for a long time until she got pregnant with me. She never knew if she got pregnant by my dad or by her lover, as they rarely use condoms. And she multiple times let him finish inside. All this year she had the doubt about who was my real father, and she pretended to take this secret to the grave. But now she exposed herself, and now all made sense. That was the reason she always treated me like this. That's why she always put everyone's word before mine. Dad threw her out that night, and in very little time all the family knew about it. We warned them in case she tried to set any lies. She hated it because she called us, saying we had no right to say anything, that she is our mother, and we can't say anything against her. The aftermath. So to conclude this craziness, I won a good amount of money. My brother is still my best friend. My relationship with my sister is damaged but healing, and she's separated from her toxic and misandric friends. My ex is gone, I hope forever this time. Dad is hurt, mom revealed herself to be a cheater but they are not divorcing. She is back at my dad's home but he hasn't forgiven her, and from what he said he never will. But he doesn't want to go through a divorce or give her anything he worked for. In his words, they're married, but they're not a couple, and she is now trying to earn my dad's forgiveness. And of course my mom now openly hates me because to her I'm the cause of all her problems. In her words, if you had done what I said and took charge of the kid, none of this would have happened. I hope you're happy now. And that's it. Sorry for the text wall. Hope you all had a good 2023 and I also wish you a good 2024. I will keep working, saving and trying to build a life away from this madness. I'll probably cut contact with my mom but I don't care at this point anymore. Now on to the next story. Story 2. My ex-wife cheated and left me for another man. Now she's alone and broke while I'm happily married to an amazing woman. When you marry your spouse you have to recite vows such as in sickness and health, for better or worse, and most importantly, till death do you part. I, male 45, took those vows seriously when I married my first wife 15 years ago. The two of us married after dating for about 4 years and living together for 2. It seemed like we were a great fit for one another, similar goals, interests, values and everything like that. It was around 3 years in when I started noticing little things. She wasn't distant or anything and still accepted my touch, but she was sneaky. My ex never wanted me to see her phone, not that I had a reason to at the time, but making it so obvious drew attention to it. This probably ended up being her downfall. The thing that made me realize something was going on was when her phone rang while we were watching a movie one night. She bolted to the bathroom and started talking in hushed voices. I confronted her when she came back because that was just too strange for me not to bring up. Again, more denial that nothing was going on. It was her friend who really needed to talk to her. I remember hearing a male voice before she rushed off to the bathroom, so I confronted her about that fact. It's a guy friend, was her excuse. As far as I knew, my wife didn't have any male friends. I wouldn't have a problem with it, but the fact that she didn't say anything was concerning. So I did the only thing I could think of. I grabbed her phone from her when she was texting on it constantly one day. She shouted at me, but I got the evidence I needed. I saw texts back and forth with this guy named John. They were of a romantic and sexual nature, which just confirmed for me that my wife had been cheating on me. I asked how long this had been going on. She said a few months. It wasn't something she was looking for, but it just happened. The thought never crossed my mind that she would ever step outside our marriage. It sounded silly, but I never saw it coming. We seemed happy, and she seemed genuinely happy to me. Yet here she was telling me she had cheated on me with some guy she met at a coffee shop of all places. He was the barista and started flirting with her. One thing led to another, and a month later they started an affair. Cheating was a deal breaker for me, so I told my wife our marriage was over. She cried and seemed genuinely distraught by the thought that our marriage was going to be over. This lasted for a few days until I told her I had finally gone to a lawyer to start the divorce process. After I told my wife, she told me that she never loved me anyway, and that her new boyfriend would make her happier than I ever would. The sudden change in her attitude was shocking. I knew she was just doing this to hurt me, so I tried to brush it off. In a little under a week, my wife moved out and stayed with her family. I almost wanted to ask why she hadn't moved in with her new boyfriend, but I wanted to make a clean break from her. After the papers were signed, I felt relieved. However, there was also devastation. I hated the fact that my first marriage had ended the way it did. We were supposed to spend the rest of our lives together. At the time, I was close to turning 35 and facing the end of my marriage. My ex seemed so happy once the divorce was final. She'd be posting these pictures on Facebook of her new boyfriend. I had to eventually delete my Facebook because it wasn't a good idea for me to constantly be obsessing over what she was doing. I then started working on myself, working out, hobbies, friends, and everything I could do to keep my mind off my ex. The divorce was a necessity, but it didn't mean that I wasn't hurt that this ended up being the outcome. It was entirely my ex-wife's fault. All she had to do was stick to her vows. How hard was that? After about a year, I was starting to reach a new level of happiness. I wasn't sure what my ex-wife was up to and didn't care. My sister cared because she took it upon herself to tell me what happened to my ex-wife. She had mutual friends, so it was easy to find out what was going on with my ex. The guy ended up taking her for all she was worth. She paid his bills, gave him money for a business, and the kicker was he had been cheating on her the entire time. I didn't feel any pity for my ex because now she knew how it felt. How she thought a cheater was going to be faithful to her was beyond me. She was in a lot of debt now thanks to giving this guy so much money. During our marriage, we both had good jobs and made decent money. We had long since paid off any debt we had, so it was a shock to learn that she had ended up in such a bad financial spot. This woman my sister was describing to me didn't sound like my ex at all. It sounded like an entirely different woman. She was so desperate that she had even gone around asking others for money, including my sister. I was surprised she didn't reach out to me, but I had her blocked on all my devices. We didn't share any children, so there was no reason for us to remain in contact with one another. Once I met my second wife, all thoughts of my ex flew out of my mind. We met at work actually, and while it's never a good idea to get involved with a coworker, I couldn't help myself. The same applied to her. It was about a year and a half after we met and started dating that I proposed. It was quite fast, but I felt like it was right. When my wedding was announced, my ex did reach out to me to tell me congratulations. I just responded with a smiley emoji because how else can you respond to that? I didn't have any obligation to speak with her. But I still wanted to say something to her just to get it off my mind and never have to think about it again for as long as I lived. Now I'm 45, and I've been married to my second wife for years. Things couldn't be better between the both of us. The last I heard, my first wife was still alone and hopping from relationship to relationship. The way things are looking for my ex is not good. She is going to end up being alone when she could have had a long-lasting relationship. I guess I should thank her because if she hadn't cheated on me, I never would have met my second wife, who is amazing.